for more on extremism in America, let's turn to former Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson and Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt. Let me start with you, Mr. Greenblatt. You said this is likely the deadliest attack on a Jewish community in American history, and yet anti-Semitic rhetoric and attacks have been on the rise. So give us a sense of that, put that in context, and how shocked were you by this?
Well, I think I was horrified. Everyone in my organization, the country was horrified by what happened yesterday. But unfortunately, in some ways, we weren't necessarily surprised. At the ADL, we've been on the front lines of fighting hate for over 100 years and tracking anti-Semitic incidents for 4 decades. And what I can tell you is, in 2016, we saw a 34% increase in acts of harassment, vandalism, and violence against the Jewish community. But last year, a 57% increase, the single largest surge that we've ever seen in anti-Semitic acts in the United States. And so this event that happened yesterday, this terrible tragedy, and our hearts break. They break for the families and the victims and the community. But let me tell you, we should not look away when anti-Semitism is on the rise. We need to act.
And Secretary Johnson, I know the ADL also this week showed a marked increase in online attacks against the Jewish community as we get closer to Election Day. When you look at those statistics, when you hear what Mr. Greenblatt just said, what is your sense of what's happening in the country?
Well, first, Martha, all Americans this morning should mourn with the families of the 11 killed who were members of the Tree of Life Synagogue, and with the Jewish community generally. Martin Luther King used to say that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. An attack against one is an attack against us all. As I think Jonathan alluded to, we live now in a very, very toxic environment that includes an incivility in our political discourse among our leaders. The attack yesterday and the attempted pipe bombings over the course of last week should be a wake-up call to all Americans to demand change. And change has to start at the top. We're in an environment now where deranged individuals feel that it's their place to bring about change in our society with an AR-15 or a series of pipe bombs. And Americans really do listen to their leaders, including our president. Our president has the largest microphone. He has the largest bullhorn. This particular president has a particularly large voice and a large microphone, and Americans should demand that their leaders insist on change, a more civil discourse, and a more civil environment generally.
And Mr. Greenblatt, I want to ask the same question of you. Were you comforted by the president's remarks yesterday and his repeated condemnation of anti-Semitism?
Well, it is important that our leaders lead, as Secretary Johnson said, and I was encouraged that the president said something yesterday. The country needed to hear that, but it isn't what you say after the tragedy that only matters. It's the environment that you create with your rhetoric. And at the ADL, we have spoken out when candidate Trump or President Trump has invoked anti-Semitic memes and used the kind of rhetoric favored by white supremacists. But I think we also need to keep in mind, and we'll keep doing that, we'll keep speaking truth to power, but it's more than what one man does. Whether you're an elected official meeting with Nazi sympathizers or bringing Holocaust deniers to the House of Representatives, or if you're a candidate for office invoking wild anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Jewish financiers like George Soros manipulating world events, or if you're a religious leader referring to Jews as termites, all of this is absolutely unacceptable. And we can't create a situation or allow ourselves to normalize anti-Semitism and think this is somehow just the average daily course of business. It's abnormal and it needs to be interrupted and stopped.
Jeh Johnson, I want to go back to the suspect, the accused shooter. He was prolific on social media, especially in online community, called Gab, which allegedly has attracted a number of far-right users. He reportedly wrote, "I can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered. Screw your optics, I'm going in." Who monitors sites like these? Is there enough oversight? Where is the line drawn there?
That's a good question. I think first and foremost, social media providers, internet service providers have to monitor the content on their platforms for threats of violence, for this type of hate. I don't believe that the government, particularly the security agencies of our government, should be in the business of limiting or editing speech or political debate or political content. But there is a line that is crossed from debate, robust debate, to hate, inciting violence, and threatening acts of violence. And so I know that internet service providers, social media providers have made great strides to take down truly hateful speech, but they've got to keep at this, they've got to keep on it. This cuts across religion, race, demographic, nationality, and it's no coincidence, frankly, that the individual who used to work for me at DHS, responsible for countering violent extremism, now works for Jonathan at ADL. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us to be vigilant when it comes to this kind of thing, be more scrutinizing, and to demand change among our leaders and the discourse that they foster and bring about in the run-up to this midterm.
You know, at the ADL, we monitor this kind of online hate and harassment. We opened a Center for Technology and Society in the heart of Silicon Valley last year. And we're working directly with Google and Twitter and Facebook and Microsoft. But the companies need to do more. And as an advocate, a fierce advocate for the First Amendment, we need to recognize and acknowledge that freedom of speech is not the freedom to slander. And the freedom of assembly isn't the freedom to incite violence. So whether it's Gab or any of these other platforms, those who peddle hate, those who seek to spread harm, we need to take steps to shut that down.
Okay, thanks to both of you for all your comments this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.